Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hi, everyone. Welcome. You're listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Living Heaven on Earth. And I'm with my co-host, Dawn Diviniste. Welcome
Hello.
to the show, Dawn.
Aloha. Kakahiaka. That means good morning in Hawaiian.
Good morning in Hawaiian.
It's morning here. It's not here. So
how do you say that again?
Aloha kakahiaka. It's all one word.
Aloha kakahiaka. Kiaka.
Yep.
Very nice. Yeah, it's 9:00 there. It's 12 PST, Pacific time here. And then it's 3:00 somewhere else, and who knows whatever else times it is around the world. But, here we are in this now moment, continuing the story of how to survive the murder of a loved one. And that is what happened to you 6 years ago when your mother was murdered. And today this is actually our third show today that we're trying to capture all the different things that took place with this horrific event that took place in your life that changed everything for you. Everything, game changer. So last show, we talked about one of the things that we wanted to bring up now is talking about your husband, because we really haven't focused on him at all. We want to find out, what happened, because you got counseling. And you just finished counseling. When was that? Probably like a month or so ago. Maybe in May. So you just finished counseling, and this has been 6 years ago. And then you had mentioned that your husband, he didn't receive counseling. He wasn't part of that program that was part of the community program that was being rolled out.
Right, California State, yeah.
California State.
Yeah, immediate family members only, and
immediate family members. Even though he was your husband, would have been nice if he would have.
Well, yeah, and he was one of the
caretakers.
Well, he ended up being yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was close. He was close with my mom and Bob, and used to help him with the sailboat, and he was a part of their lives. And so, it was a big shock. But what I can see is that everybody is built differently. He has a military background. He was in the Coast Guard for 12 years. He's built to handle things differently than me. Some people can handle emergency situations, male, female, it doesn't matter. They're built for that. But he was able to handle things better. Could he have, benefited from counseling? For sure, yes. Did I support him in doing that? Sure, and he did do a few sessions, but even because, Bob, my stepdad, he was in the hospital. He was in ICU for a month, and then he got sent to a rehab center for 2 more months. So it was, 3 months going to, just the facilities. But then the bad part was the day that it was like they said, okay, well, Bob gets to go home now. It's like, okay, no, what does that mean? Oh, well, we're going to show you how to shower him. And that was like a 10-minute training, and then a 10-minute training on how to do the feeding tube. And it was like insta nurse. And so just, think about the mental aspect of that, and like just stepping into a new role immediately. And so I was all in. I was ready to do whatever was necessary. And Bob, he wanted to be in his house. He wanted to be in his house with his dogs, with his memories, with his stuff. It was really important. And so we actually moved out of our house and in with him to take care of him. And so we moved, it's going from a 3-bedroom house to a one bedroom, and integrating. And just so all this change was happening. And I remember that first week, when Bob was home, and Keith was like, "No, Dawn, you're not gonna be the one to stay home and do this. No, I'm built for this. I have the military background. I am great with scheduling. I am, follow through, and I'm built for this. So, physically, to be able to help lift him, and so." Yeah, because he was wheelchair bound. So, and he did require, full care. So, yeah, I lasted a week helping, and then it was my job to go back to work. So imagine that, imagine all this trauma, and then me going back to my corporate job. And at the time, I was in charge of all the graphic communications of 19 grocery stores. And not just that, but just, the website and the apps and the, auction site, and oh my gosh, there's all their advertising. It was a big responsibility job. And I did last until May the next year. So, that's pretty good. But Keith, he got to he got to dive into that caregiving role, and we did take some classes. Shasta County offered some free classes, and there were others. But one of the things is they set up to give you to send food home, for the feeding tube. Well, the first, I look at the ingredients, and the first thing on the Nestle, food is high fructose corn syrup. And I'm like, no, that is not how you heal. Oh my gosh. So it was also like me integrating my knowledge of the vitality foods and superfoods, and then making our own, high nutrition things for the feeding tube. And that was just amazing to see. Oh my gosh. No wonder people are having a hard time, just with recovery. It's not optimal. And so really it's a matter of kind of being a rebel and looking at things and going, I'm not going to do it that way. I know there's a better option here.
Well, once you know what high fructose corn syrup can do to you and how bad it is for you, you obviously not in good conscience. It's like, not with your good conscience can you actually give this to a person that is on a feeding tube.
Yeah, oh my
frail.
God.
And it's like, not with a good heart and mind can you actually just pretend like you don't know this, right?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Surprising. Yeah.
So you guys came up with your own nutritional concoction then of what to put into the feeding tube?
Yeah, the protein powder and all the superfoods and spirulina and, all that.
Yeah.
Fresh.
All the high vibe and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, Bob, he survived another 2 years, and that was good. But people saw him decline, and they saw a difference in him, and they didn't realize, we were taking him to the brain doctor and getting him tested, and they worked with him you know, from the outside, you don't see mental, you know, disability. It's really difficult. You think, you see someone and you think that they're the same person, and you know, with lack of blood or loss of blood, and that means loss of oxygen to the brain, it definitely has an impact on the brain. And then he was limited with his ability to speak. So, you know, here he is trying to speak, and people are, you know, coming to visit, and it's hard to understand that he's not the same person, and he has this, you know, limited ability to speak. And so it was really difficult.
What was your take again on why do you think that Bob came back? Because he came back.
Well,
specifically.
Looking at the big picture, you know, the big giant picture is that, yeah, he came back to save me, really. He came back to give me purpose. Without him, I know I would have crashed and burned. I mean, in a very big depression, and I don't know if I really would have pulled out of it. I mean, I don't know. It's
hard to say. It's
just, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me to be here in Hawaii, that's part of my healing path is, you know, I am trying to live heaven on earth, and this was my heart space. And when I was 14, when I first came here, I knew I never wanted to leave. I cried the whole way home, and, you know, I just knew at some point I would come back here. It's like the place, you know, finding the place that you feel the best in the world. And that's what this place is definitely.
How long ago did you move to Kauai?
I came here 4 years ago with the idea. That's when Neil Donald Walsh said, "Hey, just go write a book. You know, you're going to help a lot of people by sharing this information." And so it was a choice of either, there's a life coaching program that I can go and get trained and do that, or I can go to Hawaii and I can write a book. So I opted for Hawaii, write a book. And it's funny how we have these plans in life, and then and then divine shows up and integrates something totally different. Well, what happened was I came here, I locked in with the Airbnb for 3 months, thinking that would be a good amount of time to write a book. And I didn't get a rental car because I'm just thinking I'm just going to have my desk and my computer and just write. And I stayed up in Princeville. You know, you can walk around, and I get there, and they had just adopted a new, like, adolescent, you know, greyhound whippet dog. The renters. And this dog was like crazy dog, crazy barking dog, peeing all over the place dog. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, how do I get out of here?
No peace and quiet. No peace and quiet.
Yeah. And so, but I did meet Allie, and Allie has been this huge ally in my life ever since then. And she actually, what I got out of the trip was I got to learn a whole nother realm of healing and nutrition. And she just took me all over the island. So that was my beginning in Hawaii.
So that was 4 years ago. So basically, we're going to talk about you writing that book, but we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Living Heaven on Earth. We'll be right back.
My name's Bob Skeel. I'm 91 years old, and I want to take a few minutes now to share with you the important role, actually the critical role, Kornelia has played in my life. I say critical because I'm not sure I'd be alive at all to the many possibilities that make up our human experience at my age, if not for her. I could have easily become another dead man walking, only half conscious, stumbling through my remaining years, if it hadn't been for Kornelia. 6 years ago, I lost my wife to Alzheimer's. We'd been married for 61 years. I never thought I'd be a widower, but there I was, suddenly lost and alone, but with the good sense to set a working goal for myself. I was going to spend the rest of my life committed to unconditional love, whatever that meant and wherever that took me. A year or so later, Kornelia came along, helping me over several years to focus that unconditional love where it had never been focused before, on me. My whole life, my entire being had been focused on love of neighbor, and I had derived great satisfaction from that. But in the process, I had ignored the second part. I love your neighbor as yourself. Now it was time to direct that love inward. I didn't see that right away, but Kornelia did, and she drew me there. She drew me actually to God. Through many conversations over coffee and after numerous, sometimes tearful, agonizing discussions, Kornelia was able to lead me, kicking and screaming, to within where I needed to be. It was there finally that I was able to re-identify myself. It was in bringing unconditional love to myself that I now saw myself in a new light, a fully conscious, worthy human being, capable of healing, loving, and creating in my own right all these gifts of the evolutionary process. I'm a new man now, younger as I get older. I don't move as fast as I once did, of course, but my smile is quicker and I engage the heart and mind of others more readily. I would likely not be at such a wonderful stage in my life if not for Kornelia. I owe my new life to her, a wonderful friend and a constant source of inspiration. Thank you, Kornelia.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Cornelia Stephanie Show, and we're talking with Dawn Diviniste on how she survived the murder of her loved one, and which was her mother. And Dawn is living in Hawaii now, in Kauai. And 4 years ago, she went to Kauai, and she was smitten with a dog named Allie.
No, that's not a dog. No.
It's not a dog?
No.
Oh. We're talking about a dog.
No, Ellie's my savior. She was the one. No, she was staying in the same house.
Oh.
And she had the rental car. No, she taught me how to prep wonderful, foods and take them to the beach and how to live. And do lots of self-love. So yeah, no, Ellie's not the dog. The dog is just like a nuisance.
Oh, okay. The dog was the one that was basically saying you need to get out of the house.
Exactly. Like, don't sit in front of the computer anymore. You've done that all your life.
Oh, okay. You needed to get out and get into nature.
Yes.
And play around in Kauai's heartbeat.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But prior to you going to Kauai, you're back in California with your husband, and now Bob's home, and you all of a sudden became caretakers and, discovered that you went back to work, you're going back to work. And now, because originally we began talking what kind of coaching or counseling did your husband receive, and what kind of toll did that have on him emotionally and physically, and then what did that do to your marriage?
I mean, what a contrast there. I mean, he's a go-getter. He's a type A personality,
Alpha
of service, hands-on mechanic all his life, journeyman plumber. He's used to helping people in the neighborhood or, friends, family, whatever it is, building fences, whatever it is, somebody has an issue and he's there to help them in the physical, real physical. And here, caregiving, yeah, it's physical, but it's also like sitting around the house and like watching someone watch TV. And it's like, oh my gosh, you can lose yourself. And it really did take a toll on him. I mean, and it was a perfect example of how emotions can definitely create dis-ease in the body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always on that, in the etheric, things begin, the thoughts, and then the emotions, and it keeps getting denser, and then this dis-ease happens in our body. And what it turned out to be, when Bob died in 2014, it showed up for Keith that he was disabled. I mean, he just collapsed after that. He had sciatica so bad he could not walk. He could crawl through the house. He could barely go to the bathroom. Barely. I mean, it was awful. Pain scale 10.
Oh, that's terrible.
And you know, all he wanted was like ibuprofen and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, yeah. I know. I mean, you know, being the natural, health practitioner, holistic health coach, I just knew that's not, optimal. But it was a great, testimony, validation of how good, the doTERRA essential oils are, and that, you can use those, and there's a special combination that helps support situations like that and support the body to go from pain 10 down to I timed it, okay, what's your pain, every 15 minutes it dropped 3. I was like, oh my God, okay, so that works. Yay.
Yeah.
But it definitely, so it disabled him, but also really suppressed his soul. The 2.5 years of caregiving, it really suppressed his soul in a big way that he was just, really unhappy. It was really hard, for us to be around each other. He had a lot of hostility and resentment and bitterness, and it was all, just there being built up, and finally I said, maybe you need to go live in our old house, by yourself, and just let's give each other some space. And we did, and it was needed. It was needed. I mean,
Was Bob still alive at that time when he moved over? No, he was already gone. Bob was already gone.
Yeah.
And so
it was like 3 months later when that happened.
Yeah. And so basically being in the house for 2 years, being a caretaker and a caregiver, not being out there in the world, not socializing and doing things 24/7, pretty much caretaking, and then not really having processed all of the emotions around the murder. I mean, I can only imagine, especially for men, because men process emotions differently than women do. And I get this a lot with working with men, with them not being able to articulate their feelings, and that it's really okay to cry, and that it's really okay to release, and that it's really okay to emotionally rage, because they've never had that safe space to be that way before. So I can only imagine that your husband, if he didn't get any coaching, didn't get any counseling, didn't get any support with what to do with the emotional processing, then he was just holding all that energy in. And then I think later on it turned into resentment.
Yeah. Well, I know, we're at the end of our divorce. I mean, the papers have been signed a while ago, and so, I don't even know if I should be calling him my husband, because he's, we've been apart from each other for 3 years now.
But you guys are good friends now, right?
Yeah, of course. We are. And, well, I mean, I always will honor and love him. Gosh, huge, deep friendship to be able to go through some, actually it wasn't even this. I mean, gosh, we've been through other really heavy things together, in the past as well. So, I mean, yeah, my book, there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's not just about this. It's about, gosh. Oh, man. Okay. I don't know. My mind just.
There's a lot of things that a lot of trauma, basically, Dawn, of what you're talking about that you've had to overcome.
Yes.
That you've had to deal with, and the fact that you are today, living your life in from a place of expressing your joy, from a place of expressing your bliss, from healing and recovering, from overcoming so many things. This is a testimony to the spiritual work that you've done and the holistic therapies that are available for all of us to use, and that basically, if you can do it, other people can do it too. And I think that's what your message is.
It's a commitment to self-love. Mm-hmm. It's like recapturing, like recreating your identity. I am not, my past. Yes, my past makes me, who I am today, empowers me, and I can gain strength from all these trials and tribulations. But, really this whole journey is about, choosing this new identity. And that's, I mean, I can see, like, even my bio. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of things listed. I've done a lot of things, but is it really who I am? I'm still evolving. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Focus on most.
Yeah, it's a constant reinventing. It's a constant giving birth to the new self and letting go of the old self, right? It's a continuous cycle of rebirthing the self and finding out and discovering who you are now. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back with Dawn Diviniste.
Hi, my name is Janet Hickox, and I want to tell you a little story about a story and how my friend Kornelia Stephanie helped me through to the other end of that story. I have gone from the dark of a story I was telling myself that wasn't true to the light of optimism to see my way out of where I was and to where I want to go. And it all started with her scheduling a session for me to help me reclaim my money or my financial empowerment. Up until that point, I had been telling the story that my business was dying, that my business was not successful anymore. And the more I tried to figure out what was going on, the worse I felt about it. And when I had to get ready to do the session with Kornelia, she asked me to go look at the numbers and where I was through the year to date, and then also to come prepared with a number that I wanted to raise my income to. Well, I was quite comfortable with that part, right? I knew where I wanted to be. What I wasn't comfortable with doing is going and looking up those numbers. But I made myself do it, even though I tried to backpedal my way out of the session. She didn't know that, but I was going to try to get myself out of the session. And I looked up those numbers, and it was incredible that I discovered through that process that my business wasn't dying. In fact, I was doing 12% better than I had the year before. So I was shocked. I was shocked literally at the power of the story that I had been telling for months. But more than that, I was shocked that I had allowed myself to get there. And later in that day when I had my session with Kornelia, she pointed out some very obvious things, like, how are you going to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go? How are you going to get there if you don't have the goals written out, if you don't have it set up so that you know where you are and where you're going to go? Totally makes sense, right? I had been in business, somebody else's business, as a sales manager for years, and I was a national sales manager. I had awards for sales management. I had business awards because of numbers. And yet when it came to doing my own business, I totally forgot all that I'd ever learned. So by the time Kornelia, working with me in just one session got me to look deeper at the numbers and where did I want to go, and actually, claiming where I wanted to go. I was filled with a sense of optimism and hope like you can't believe. It was like everything shifted for me. And I am so looking forward to our continued sessions to see how far I can really push myself to get where I've only dreamed of being, where I've never taken the dream and actually brought it into concrete existence. So thank you, Kornelia, for the work that you're doing out there. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see where I go from here.
We're back with Dawn Diviniste, and we were talking before we went to break about how Dawn's marriage took a turn and took a toll on after this whole event. Everything shifted and everything changed. And so Dawn and her husband actually got a divorce, and yet they're still really good friends. And so how long did it happen? How long after Bob passed away, and then your husband ended up moving back over to your old house? And was that the progression of what it took to actually, start the separation between the two of you?
Yeah. It was only a few months that happened, and then I think it was really essential, like of each of us, like finding who we are, like after something like that. Like I know, so I've actually tried to get back together, and he's really committed to himself, and it just says a lot that we were really good together, but also apart. It strengthens you in a whole new way. Mm-hmm. And he sees for himself that he needs that at this point in his life. And of course, I have to respect that. But do I love him? Of course. Am I attracted to him? Of course. But I also, I really honor, who he is and what he's doing and why he's doing it. So, that's a tough one, boy.
How long were you married to him?
Well, hang on. So for me, what I realized recently is, in a relationship, what do I cherish the most? And it's loyalty and integrity. And when you have something like that, loyalty and integrity, a really strong relationship, that's really hard to let go. It is. But we were high school sweethearts.
Wow.
We were high school sweethearts, and we went out for 3 years in high school, and we were one of those, it couples, and whatever. We were one of those couples that, people knew that we were together, and then we had an 18-year gap, and so it was from a dream that I reconnected with him, and I mentioned it to my grandma at the time and said, I had this dream about my first boyfriend, my first love. And she said, "Oh, that's funny. He's been on, he's been on my mind for the past 3 days." I was like, "What? What? Are you serious?" She's like, "Yeah." So it prompted me to call him just to see how his life has been. It had been, 18 years, and I was 35 at the time, and it was like, I call, this is a whole nother radio show, just so you know, but I call, and this woman answers, and I knew he was married and he had kids and he was happy, and I just wanted to, talk to him, like,
Uh-huh.
And so this, the woman answers, and I say, "Can I talk to Keith?" And she goes, "Well, he doesn't live here anymore." And I said, "Oh, almost, okay, bye, but I didn't. I said, "Oh, well, this is Dawn. I'm an old high school friend." She's like, Dawn, the Dawn, I could never live up to you. And I was just like, what? What?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Living in Pennsylvania at the time. So, I mean, like I said, this is a whole nother radio show, but
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. So then, yeah, who knows if their marriage didn't make it because of feelings that he had towards you.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
There is history. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just think it's beautiful that you love your husband and that you are, that you're still attracted to him, and that, do I love him? Am I still attracted to him? And the loyalty and then the integrity, you still have that. It's not like you lost that. You still have that because you guys are friends. And so it's awesome. And I think it's wonderful what he's doing, that he is
committed. Yeah. Committed.
So committed to I just find that that's so masculine, and that's so beautiful to be able to really do that. That's very confident and very attractive, because that's what he needs as a soul, to have this time to himself. So he's not in a relationship right now with anyone, or
no, that would make me sick. See, we get all these triggers, and here I am trying to meet people, and man, that's like, it's just like, how does that even happen? How do two people ever come together?
Yeah. But he's doing well today, even though he didn't receive the healing, the kind of help that you got. How is he doing with everything today?
So he got his dream job 2 years ago, and so he had been a journeyman plumber, and so he really wanted to work for a company. And when this possibility came up 2 years ago, he applied to be on the engineering team of a hospital in town. And, it's an inside job, but yet he gets to use all his skills. And so, he got that job, and he just had his, just this week, he had his two-year anniversary. So he gets to help people in many, many ways in the hospital. So, it's very fulfilling for him, and
good for him.
Congratulations
to him. Yeah. Let's just keep blessing him and sending good love and juju his way, and that he continues on his journey, and that he's healing and recovering from this whole thing, and, making sense of his life as he's rebooting himself also. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but there were other things that happened with this story. And I remember you were talking about how the community, the people, the neighbors, something about the neighbors that...
Well, gosh. Okay, so the community is great at banding together and helping. I mean, we had, deliveries and food, and, it was very blessed. And there were people that showed up, and not many, but, it was a real gift for the few that did show up at the hospital, maybe 6, 4, in the end, it was a couple people that were really there for us. But then it's funny how rumors begin. Rumors begin from people that don't know what's going on. They speculate. Maybe they just need something to talk about. I don't know. But it's really, really hard when, they're not true. They're not true, and they're being spread. And it is a disease that spreads. And we got surprised. The Senior Protective Services showed up at the house, and somebody had called and complained and thought we were killing him, that we were killing.
You're killing Bob.
Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Nestle wanted to, maybe I shouldn't say that, but
right.
The system was trying to kill him, with this food, and
right. High fructose corn syrup wants to.
Right. This high fructose corn syrup, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So who do you think, I mean, does it matter? Somebody called, somebody from the community, somebody that was just
Well,
meddling?
his friends, the friends that knew him, all of a sudden he's changed. And then maybe it's,
Oh.
friends that don't see him, a lot. And then they see this decline and they see this weight loss, even though he's going to the doctor, getting checked, and, like he's getting a lot of care. But when somebody sees that, even a neighbor sees that, yeah, they're going to make up stories, but come on, everybody, we got to control our minds.
Yeah.
It's not very nice. I mean, it's really, actually, it's awful to be on the other side of it. And because at that point, Senior Protective Services, they just barge in the house whenever they want. And we had a couple other, caregivers that, helped so that Keith wasn't on, the 100% of the time. We actually hired people on our own, because even the red tape of, the insurance and all that stuff, it was easier to hire, private individuals to assist as backup. Yeah. And
So the authority, they were coming in, and they were and how long did that go on? I want you to think about that. We're going to take the last break, and we'll be right back with the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Charlene Hess, and I want to share with you my wonderful experience of choosing to use Kornelia Stephanie as my life coach. My life is so different now from where it was when I began working with her in 2011. At that time, I was in a dysfunctional marriage. I had my own business. I was raising 2 children and completely dead inside. After working with Kornelia, I began to gain confidence. I began to learn and understand how to use my emotions in my life. I learned how to process the emotions that were stored in my body, the ones that I thought that I had already worked through in my 12 years of counseling prior to working with her. The process that she had taken me through of using my emotions to heal my life, to use my anger to find peace, was absolutely incredible. I have been working with her one-on-one for many years now, and even though I am in a place now where I am thriving in my life, I still refer to Kornelia as my coach, and I still work with her on an ongoing basis where we're always checking in and keeping me accountable in my growth. After working with her for many years, I decided to go through her wholeness certification coaching program, and it has absolutely been an amazing process. I now am a certified empowerment coach, and I got certified through her program, and I am taking clients and helping them to find the empowerment in their lives. One of the things that I love about Kornelia is that she taught me that I am the authority in my own life. And that was a really difficult experience to go through because it was really fighting against all of the dogma and programming that was so ingrained in my brain that all of the authority is outside of me. But as I began to understand and believe and adopt and know the truth that I am the authority in my life, is when everything in my life started to shift and change. I became responsible for my decisions. I became responsible for creating a life that I love. And now I'm here in this amazing, beautiful place, living a life of so much happiness and joy. And no matter what life throws at me, I have the tools to be able to approach everything from a place of empowerment. And now I have the ability to help other people do the same. So working with Kornelia has absolutely been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. It has taken me from a life of absolute misery and given me the tools to be able to have a life of absolute, complete joy. So I cannot recommend working with her enough. I hope that you decide to choose to have her as your coach. Go through her empowerment coaching program, go through her wholeness certification, and I guarantee you won't regret it.
So Adult Protective Services came in, and they were called by some of Bob's friends, which created another huge burden on you guys, on you and your husband.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like they called and scheduled an appointment. No, they would just show up randomly and say, no, we're to come inside, and we're to come in and check conditions. And you know, I mean, of course, all the conditions were wonderful, but it was a huge stressor. And well, mainly knowing that people out there thought we were doing something to harm. Like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, that's the antithesis. I mean, it's just this, you know, complete opposite of what is going on. And then for what we've endured.
Yeah. No, you know what it was? It was a complete
Slap in the
projection.
face.
It was a complete projection of their own beliefs onto this situation, that because it was exactly the opposite of what was going on. And it was a complete projection. And they had nothing that they had to prove that this was actually happening. So, you know what I mean?
See him getting, losing weight and stuff like that. So maybe in their eyes that was proof.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, like you said, we were in the break, we were talking that Bob lived another 6 months through that time period, but he had gotten to the point where he was just really already making his journey to transition to his next destination.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you can only watch so many war movies over and over again. You know, I think he was running out of movies to watch. It just
got bored. It was boring.
He did. He lost his sailboat. He was a sailor. He was the captain. He, had his big truck. He lost that. He couldn't drive. He couldn't, have sex. He, of course, it just,
yeah, he didn't have quality of life. And so it was just, what was that experience like? Because we talked about this before, Dawn, that because Bob was a dictator, and then he turned, he completely turned into such a humble place. Everything shifted. And now, you were able to, provide care for him in such a humble space, right?
Yeah, he was full of gratitude. He was the sweetest.
Oh,
it makes me smile thinking back on who I got to see him as afterwards, because it was innocence. It was still truth, like no matter what. But it was, and he saw me. He got to see me at my core. He got to see us show up for him in a way that he never imagined would be possible in his life. That's huge. There was huge gratitude and camaraderie between all of us at the end, during that whole experience. I mean, it just, that was like the proof is in the pudding. Yeah, it was definitely. So even though, we had the hardships of the, protective services showing up and stuff, I mean, there was still, a strong bond. But he wanted to call the news outlets and, have all the news crews show up on our doorstep. And I'm like, no.
Did he really? Because he was trying to protect you?
Well,
because he was kind of
the whole event. Like he just wanted the publicity and because he wanted justice. He wanted justice. Well, because all the anger and the course. I mean, he wanted to rake somebody over the coals and then have them minced up.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So how did?
But, okay, wait. Because going back to that. Like, he wanted the news crews to show up, but I was the protector. So, talking about neighbors protecting, calling in protective services. Well, no, I was the protector of him, of, making sure that, that the news crews weren't showing up. And then for what? I mean, he could barely talk. I mean, so if they had shown up, then it would be, he could write. He had people help him, type, and but yeah, it was I was definitely a protector for him, and as well he was for us.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love? I love the fact that you all had, the three of you, you, Bob, and your husband, had that healing took place towards the end with him transitioning.
And my brother. Oh my
and your brother.
brother, yeah. And yeah, it's just we've all had such a rough history with him. It's a miracle that it turned out the way it did, really. For all of us to be able to show up and for all of that healing to occur within the family, to really show up for each other when it's needed most, it is the miracle, really. It really is.
Yeah. Is that your takeaway from that whole thing? That to be able to show up for each other.
It's one of the big, huge ones. Yeah.
And isn't that part of our humanity, that we can really show up for each other? Isn't that what living heaven on earth is all about? Being able to show up for each other in the end, no matter what, and that we can put our differences aside and we can really show up, right?
Yes, I'm getting chills. Yes.
And we can show up from our heart and do, what needs to be done to love each other, to take care of each other, to nurture each other, to feed the children and support each other, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And now, so Shasta County, well, you don't know, I don't know. Okay, Shasta County, big fires in Redding. And
yeah.
Gosh, their house is 2 blocks away from the fire line. I mean, it's been a stressful week for me, for everybody there, and everybody's banding together. My brother's there. He's been helping out. What he's seeing is the best in people all coming together. And now they're doing the roadside barbecues and, the donations, and it's just the aloha spirit is definitely out, and being shared, and it's amazing. So that's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And we have about a minute and a half, Dawn, before we close out the show today. So what would you like to say to wrap up this segment of your incredible story?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be shared, as you can see. I'm just grateful for all of it, all the lessons. I mean, even the hardest ones. They've made me stronger, and now I get to share. Somebody else needs that strength, and I'm just grateful for meeting you, Kornelia, and the cosmic alignment that happened there, and here we are sharing goodness, and I hope this helps people out there.
Yeah, and what I want to see is this story get picked up and a movie made out of it, so it can really help a lot of people. And I just want to commend you for what an incredible healer you are, and really you are helping a lot of people. Thank you so much, Dawn Diviniste. Thank you for tuning in and living heaven on earth together with you. Okay, we'll see you next time. Namaste.
Namaste, Diviniste.